Our next holiday coming up is Valentine's Day. And I love pop-up cards, as I told you last time. So this time we are going to do a different version of a pop-up card in celebration of Valentine's Day. Let's talk about our materials for a moment. So we have our glue, scissors, tape in case we need it, an eraser in case we need it, and a pencil. So that you're able to see what I'm doing a little better, I'm going to be using a white pencil, but you can use whatever you have that works. All right, aside from these materials, we will also be using some paper. So we'll have 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 construction paper, pink sheet of paper, and if you have it, a piece of cardstock. If not, you can use any construction paper or regular paper that you have, because that part won't be seen too much. All right, we're going to start with the 1 sheet of red construction paper. Go ahead and fold it in half. And make sure it looks like this when you're doing it. So horizontal orientation. And remember to try to line up those edges. Crease the side. Okay. Ta-da! Super easy, right? Okay, now for this next part, what you need to pay attention to is this side. I'm just going to mark a line here because what we're going to do is draw a heart shape, then cut it out. But we want to make sure that this does not get cut. And that way, we don't end up with 2 sheets of paper. We still have 1 that's held together. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is put a dot. Try to make that in the center as much as you can. And then I'm going to draw a line all the way down here. Draw a dot there. So now from this line, I'm going to curve. I like to make my hearts a little bit rounded. I'm going to put a little dot over here so I know that's where I want to draw this line to, or from. Then up here, this gets a little trickier. So just draw a big kind of half circle. And I'm going to make a little mark on that side so we make sure this one doesn't go way higher. Okay. The other nice thing, since you're cutting this out, is see that little extra line that I have here and here. You're not going to see those because you are going to cut them away. So this next part, it's important that this folded sheet of paper is held together still. So we're going to cut both pieces at the same time. So I want to cut along those lines. I also think it's a good trick to not always have to follow that line exactly. If you know you're not keeping this area, and sometimes it's easier to control your scissors by just cutting off little pieces at a time. Remember, still fold this together. Okay, so now we have a heart, and as long as we didn't cut along that line, that should be all together. So this is the front of our card, and that's the inside. Or if you have a little bit of those showing that you can't erase, you can turn that inside out. Okay, now the next part, and this also works for if when you're cutting, you accidentally didn't cut that back sheet too, you can always kind of trace around the shape that you have already on the piece of paper behind it, and then use that line to cut around. But what we're going to do is we're going to make this into a different kind of pop-up. So on the inside of my heart card, I'm going to put more hearts, more springy hearts. I'm going to try to hold that in place. Okay, so we know that this heart is the same size, right? And we want this to go in here. Can we see? Sometimes I get caught up in what I'm saying and not sure if you can see everything that I'm doing. Okay, so we want this heart to go inside here, but we want to still be able to see the red, so we know it needs to be a little bit smaller than that. So what I'm going to do is try to draw around there. So a smaller heart inside that first drawing that we did. Just try to follow those lines. Okay, I think I like that one, although that's a little too tall on this side. Or this needs to be taller, but I think I like this a little bit shorter, so I'm going to adjust that. And we're going to cut that off so you don't need to erase it, but sometimes it just makes it a little less confusing if you don't have so many lines to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that. Okay. Not bad, huh? Okay. Now again, we'll do that with the red. So I'm going to set this piece of paper aside and bring in my second sheet of construction paper, red construction paper that is. And now what I'm going to do, because I want to make another red heart on top of this one, and we still want to see the pink, so just like we did in the last one, I'm going to trace around this heart and then draw another smaller one inside of it. Oh no. Oh boy. Yeah, that happens. If the one side gets too messy, too many pencil lines drawn on it, you can always flip it over and use the other side. You can use this area too if you like, but I like to try to save as much as I can, so I'll try to use whatever bits are more difficult to use first. Ooh, looking good. Okay. Now the last part, I'm going to use a little scrap piece of my red because that looks definitely to be big enough. And we'll try to use up as much scrap paper as we can. All right, next step. So we will try to make these top three spring out a little bit. Get our cardstock, and if you don't have cardstock, you can do the same thing using one of these pieces. So I'm just going to, actually we'll fold this. That's the best way to get the straight line. We just need a little bit. So this can be a little bit harder to fold. So the next kind of size you can get. See, so that's about bigger than a finger width, depending on your fingers, I guess. Maybe it's 2. All right, and then we'll cut along that line. Next, you are going to fold this up, so back and forth like an accordion. Spring. Okay. Now, since we're doing a few of these, we don't want to have too big of a spring because a lot of times, see, it'll kind of start to sag. So what we're going to do is just stretch that out a little bit so you can cut a little bit easier. And we'll do cut here. So that's just, we'll call that 2-ply. So it's 1 fold, 2 sections. And the next one, we will do the same thing.
Then on the last one, we'll make it 3. So 1, 2, 3 sections. And that has 2 folds.
Now we'll set that aside because if we mess up anything, we might need it. So we'll put it there. Now we'll get to some gluing. Remember, when it comes to the glue, and especially when it comes to paper, you don't need a lot, or else it'll all just squish out the sides and take a really long time to dry. So what we'll do is just put a line close to the edge, not right on the edge, because that will definitely squeeze out. And then a little bit, just fill it in, or you can do a couple dots too. Pick it up and glue it down. Now for this next part, we will use the shorter ones first. So we've got 2 of these and 1 of the 3 parts. So we'll take the ones with 2 and you'll put a dot of glue on that side. Press that. So press that down. Then, oh, you know what? Turn it that way so that that flap is sticking upwards. Can you see this? That? Okay. There's a little bit of glue squeezed out already, but we'll put a little bit more on there. Not too much. And then we'll take our next biggest heart and stick that on there. Okay. So especially when it comes to these springs, if you use too much glue, it's bad because then it'll just stick down to the paper, but that's behind it. It won't really spring out too much. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a spring on that. See, not too big, just a little bit. For the next one, we'll do another one of these.
This one with the 2 pieces. Come on. All right. And we'll put that flap down this time. So press that down. See? All right, we're getting a little bit more spring. Now,
the last part, and we'll give this just an extra second to dry, we will shift that over. And I like to give my little heart a cute face. So you can use your pencil, colored pencil, marker, whatever you want to use to do this part. Feel free. I'm going to use one of my favorite pens. It's more like a marker. And draw some little eyes. You can put whatever kind of face you want on there. So if you want to draw the same face as me, go for it. Or if you want to make up your own, I highly encourage that too. Big smile. All right, this is the last bit for the pop-up section. So now we have our last piece, and we'll make this with that springy side kind of pointing up. All right, so press that on. And you should be good, but just in case, if this ends up being wider than your heart. If you haven't already glued it on, you can always cut it to be a little bit thinner so that you don't see it poking out. Okay, other very important step. When you're done with the glue, before you do anything else, close the cap. And if you have a tissue or paper towel, you can wipe it off, or just wipe it off after with your hand when you're all done and before you wash your hands. Okay, last part. Yay! All right, our heart is springing into action. Woo! All right, so that is the magical part of the card. Now on this side is where you can write your message to whoever you give this to, someone in your family, somebody you got a crush on, you know, someone you just want to say thank you to. Also, if you decide to draw on the front, which I definitely think you should, wait for this part to dry, of course. And what's going to be best is just to kind of leave that open like that so you don't have it underneath here, and go ahead and draw on it. Now, if you just watched the video and you haven't done this along with me, you can always draw that part first. Yay! We did it. I'm in love. I hope that you've enjoyed making this and that you'll come back next time for another video like this one, and hope to see you soon.